Deep beneath the surface of Earth, a silent chamber rested untouched for centuries. The world above buzzed with the hum of cities, and the people of Earth continued their lives, unaware of the power lying dormant beneath their feet. It was a place, forgotten by time, ancient, secretive, and hidden from the world's eyes, but not forgotten by all. At the heart of this forgotten chamber, deep in the mountains, a hum began to vibrate through the walls. At first it was so faint that no one could notice, but soon the hum grew louder, like the heartbeat of something ancient waking from a long slumber. And then, the ground trembled. In a high-security government facility, Dr. Selena March, one of the few humans who knew about the ancient chamber, stood before a console, her eyes widening as the readings began to spike. "This can't be right," she whispered, running her fingers over the digital interface. Her hands shook, but her mind raced with the implications. The energy levels were off the charts. Something ancient was waking up. She grabbed the communicator on her desk and quickly contacted her superior. "Director, we have a situation. The chamber beneath the mountain complex is showing activity. Energy levels are spiking beyond normal readings." On the other end of the line, Director Gavin Cross sounded calm but concerned. "Send a team to investigate immediately. And Dr. March, be careful. You know what's down there." Dr. March nodded, even though she knew he couldn't see her. She had spent years studying the old records, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The chamber was protected by more than just walls. It was a guardian's lair, a place of unimaginable power. As the team descended deeper into the complex, the walls around them began to vibrate. Old lights flickered and ancient doors creaked open. It was as if the very walls of the mountain were alive, responding to something long forgotten. Finally, they reached the heart of the chamber. And there, lying before them, was the source of the hum. A giant stone statue carved with intricate designs stood tall and imposing. Its eyes, hollow yet intense, seemed to stare directly at them. The guardian's form was unmistakable, muscular, regal, and humanoid in shape. But this was no ordinary statue. It had been carved centuries ago by an unknown hand. Its purpose was clear: protect the secrets of Earth. Dr. March stepped forward, the floor beneath her feet growing warmer as the statue's presence seemed to pulse with energy. She looked down at the strange markings etched into the ground. A circle of glowing symbols began to appear, as if activated by their presence. This isn't just a statue. It's a guardian," Dr. March breathed, the words leaving, her lips in disbelief. "The lost guardian." Suddenly, the air around them grew heavy. The floor vibrated again, and the guardian's eyes glowed, a brilliant blue light emanating from them. A low rumble filled the chamber, like thunder building beneath the earth. Dr. March stepped back in shock. It's alive." High above in Earth's capital, Director Cross stood in his office, staring at the reports from the underground facility. His face remained calm, but inside his heart was racing. He had known that Earth's ancient history held secrets, but he had never dreamed it would come to this. The guardians of old, the ones whispered about in legends, were real, and they were awakening. He turned to the view screen, where a large map of Earth's surface was displayed. His eyes scanned the glowing red dot marking the mountain complex. He knew what had to be done. The world had to be prepared for what was about to happen. Back in the chamber, the glowing symbols on the floor began to shift, forming patterns that pulsed in time with the hum. The stone statue's eyes flared brightly, and then, with a deafening sound, it moved. Slowly, the stone began to crack, revealing a figure beneath. The guardian had awakened. With a loud rumble, the figure slowly rose to its full height, towering over the group. Its body, once encased in stone, was now revealed, to be covered in sleek armor-like plates. Ancient yet powerful, the figure stood, its eyes glowing a bright, almost unnatural blue. It stepped forward, and a voice, deep, resonant, and powerful, echoed through the chamber. "I am the guardian of Earth. I have awakened to protect what is left." Dr. March stumbled back, her heart pounding in her chest. The power radiating from the Guardian was beyond anything she had ever felt. She had read about these beings, but standing before one, alive, breathing and speaking, it was beyond her comprehension. "Who dares to disturb the peace?" The Guardian boomed, its voice like thunder. The room seemed to vibrate with its words. We didn't mean to disturb anything," Dr. March said, her voice shaky but determined. "We're just here to study." "Study? You awaken what should not be awakened. The darkness that rises now. You have unleashed it." The Guardian's words hit Dr. March like a slap. "The darkness?" she asked, feeling a chill creep up her spine. "A force older than your kind," the Guardian said. "And it is coming." Dr. March's eyes widened as she realized the truth. The darkness wasn't a metaphor. It was real. And it was coming for Earth. The Guardian stepped forward, its presence looming. The protector of Earth had awoken, and the battle for the galaxy was about to begin. The chamber was silent, except for the low hum of the Guardian's awakening. Dr. Selena March stood frozen in place, her eyes fixed on the towering figure now fully awakened before her. The Guardian of Earth, the ancient protector, long thought to be a myth, was no longer a legend. It was real, and it had just warned them of an impending disaster. The darkness that had once been a vague concept in the legends of Earth was now something tangible, something that had risen once more. And the Guardian's words echoed in Dr. March's mind, chilling her to her core. The darkness is not a force of nature. It is an entity, a hunger that devours everything in its path. And it is coming for you. Dr. March took a deep breath, trying to shake the fear in her chest. The situation was spiraling beyond anything she had prepared for. She wasn't just dealing with ancient technology. She was dealing with a threat that could destroy Earth, possibly even the entire galaxy. The Guardian turned to face her, its glowing blue eyes locking onto hers with a fierce intensity. "You are not ready," it said, its voice deep and resonant, vibrating the very ground beneath them. "But you will be." In the heart of Earth's capital, Director Gavin Cross sat in his office, staring out at the bustling city below. His thoughts were far from the ordinary matters of politics and diplomacy. He had just received a transmission from the mountain complex, a message from Dr. March. The words were clear, but they were impossible to believe. The Guardian is real, and something is coming, something worse than we've ever faced. He took a deep breath, his mind racing. What had humanity unleashed? The entire galaxy had been peaceful for so long, but now the past was returning with a vengeance, and humanity was caught in the middle. He immediately activated the intercom to his officers. "Prepare a full military response," he ordered, his voice unwavering. "We may be facing a new kind of war, a war with something we know nothing about." Back at the mountain complex, Dr. March was still grappling with the weight of what had just occurred. She had come here to study a piece of Earth's history, something long buried beneath the ground. What she hadn't expected was to awaken the very protector of the planet, a protector who knew something the rest of humanity had forgotten. The darkness was coming, and it was growing stronger. The Guardian stood before her, its armor gleaming, in the dim light of the chamber. It was powerful, ancient, and yet in its eyes she saw something else. Fear. "This place was built to protect Earth," the Guardian said, "but now it must protect you." The words didn't comfort her. They only raised more questions. Why hadn't humanity known about this before? Why hadn't the Guardian spoken up sooner? And most importantly, what was the darkness that the Guardian spoke of? The darkness had already begun to move. Far across the galaxy, in a distant unknown corner of space, a fleet of shadowy ships began to shift. They were silent, almost invisible, moving like phantoms through the blackness of space. Inside one of the ships, a dark figure sat observing the galaxy through a screen. It wasn't human. It wasn't even alive in the way most beings were. It was something far older, something born from the void. The figure turned to the commander standing before it, a being of pure energy and malice, Prepare to move forward, the dark entity said, its voice cold and commanding. We've waited for this moment for centuries. The time has come to claim what was once ours. The commander nodded, an eerie smile forming on its face. HFY. Darkness had waited long enough. It had spent centuries gathering power, hidden in the farthest reaches of space, and now it was ready to consume everything in its path, including Earth. Back on Earth, the Guardian's voice boomed once more, drawing Dr. March's attention back to the present. The darkness has always been close, but now it has been awakened, and I will need your help to stop it. Dr. March's heart pounded in her chest. The Guardian was asking for her help. Her, a scientist with no real combat experience. How could she possibly help this ancient being? But the Guardian's gaze softened. You are the key, it said. You must awaken the others, those who have been hidden. They are the only ones who can help us. The darkness that had once been forgotten, that had once been contained, was now on the move. Earth, once safe in its isolation, was no longer protected. And with the Guardian awakening, the true battle for Earth, and the entire galaxy, had just begun. Dr. March knew that there was no turning back now. The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands. But would humanity be ready for the battle that lay ahead? Could they survive the force that was coming for them? She didn't know the answers. But she did know one thing. The darkness was real. And it was coming for Earth. The cold, silent depths of space were still, but not for long. Humanity had never felt so vulnerable, yet so alive. The Guardian's awakening sent shockwaves through Earth, its secrets rising to the surface. Dr. Selena March, still reeling from the Guardian's presence, knew that the galaxy would soon realize that Earth was not alone in this fight. However, it wasn't just humanity that would soon know of the Guardian. The galaxy itself was shifting, and in the darkest corners of space, something old and terrible stirred. The darkness that the Guardian had warned about was no longer a myth. It was here, and it was hungry. Far across the stars, on the edge of a long-forgotten sector, the first signs of the darkness were evident. Ships in deep space, once invisible to all but the most advanced sensors, now glowed with eerie red lights. Shadows moved across the galaxies, and they were coming closer. The darkness was a force without mercy, an ancient entity that consumed everything in its path. And now, it had turned its gaze toward Earth. In the heart of its ship, the entity, a being of pure shadow and malice, stared at a holographic map of the galaxy. It had waited long enough. The darkness had spread for eons, feeding on whatever civilizations were unfortunate enough to cross its path. But Earth, with its untapped potential, had always been a prize just out of reach. Not anymore. We have waited, a voice echoed in the ship's command center. The voice was cold, like the void of space itself. It is time. The Guardian is awake, and so is the last of its kind. The time to devour this world has come. A dark figure stood before the command console, its shape ever shifting in the low light. The entity's leader had seen enough. Earth was the last untapped source of power in the galaxy. The Guardian had long been the keeper of Earth, but the time for protection was over. Launch the fleet. Earth is no longer safe. Back on Earth, in the shadow of the Guardian's awakening, Director Gavin Cross had assembled a special task force. The sudden appearance of unexplained anomalies, small ships vanishing, gravitational fluctuations, was becoming too much to ignore. The darkness that Dr. March and the Guardian spoke of was no longer a distant threat. As he stood before the view screen in the command center, staring at the encrypted intelligence reports, a message flickered through his console. We are ready to begin the operation. The Guardian will lead us. The darkness is not just an enemy, but a part of Earth's past. Cross turned to the top advisors in the room. The Guardian has awakened, but its knowledge is ancient. We're dealing with something we don't fully understand. Can we trust it? We don't have a choice, one advisor said, his voice tight. We need to understand what it can do. The Guardian is the only force capable of defending Earth. We've seen the signs. The galaxy is about to change forever. Far above Earth's surface, the Guardian stood on the mountain where it had been hidden for centuries. Its massive form towered over the landscape, its eyes glowing with the energy of centuries past. It had been waiting for this moment. A moment that would decide the fate of Earth and its people. As it surveyed the horizon, the Guardian's voice echoed in Dr. March's mind. The darkness is moving faster than we anticipated. It has awakened with a new purpose: to consume. It will take everything from you unless you act. Dr. March's heart raced as she heard the Guardian's words in her head. She had thought their mission was to defend Earth, to learn from the Guardian, but now she understood. This was a battle of survival. "We're not ready," Dr. March whispered to herself. The darkness was closer than anyone realized, and she wasn't sure they could stop it. Meanwhile, humanity's military forces prepared for the worst. Earth's deep space fleet, consisting of ships designed to defend and protect Earth, was now on full alert. The Guardian had provided them with insight into the threat, but that knowledge wasn't enough. They had to face the unknown head-on. The first signs of the darkness emerged like a tidal wave across Earth's atmosphere. Ships began to appear from nowhere, cloaked in shadows, with no visible signs of engines or propulsion. These ships moved silently, almost like predators, and their presence struck fear into every leader across the galaxy. In Earth's military headquarters, the atmosphere was tense. The enemy was here. It wasn't just an invasion. It was a coming storm, and humanity would have to face it whether they were ready or not. The Guardian's warning had been clear. The darkness consumes. It will not stop until all light is gone. And as the first shadowed ships dropped from the heavens, humanity took its first step into the battle against an ancient, unstoppable force. The battle for Earth had begun. The stars above Earth felt closer than ever before. The darkness was drawing nearer, its presence felt even in the deepest corners of space. For the first time, the galaxy's greatest powers knew that Earth, once considered weak and unimportant, had become the last battleground for the survival of not just their planet, but for the entire galaxy. Dr. Selena March stood before the Guardian, trying to calm her racing thoughts. The Guardian, standing like a colossus beneath the stars, had revealed the truth of what lay ahead. The darkness was a force older than the universe itself, and it had come for Earth. But something else had begun to shift. Something subtle yet dangerous. The Guardian, once Earth's ultimate protector, was now the only hope humanity had. But what if even the Guardian couldn't stop the coming storm? In the command center on Earth, Director Gavin Cross paced back and forth, his mind clouded with unease. The planet's military forces were preparing for the impending attack, but something about the speed at which the darkness was advancing didn't sit right with him. Every communication, every ship sent to investigate, had gone silent. The darkness wasn't just coming, it was already here, quietly infiltrating every corner of Earth's defenses. And as the Guardian's powers began to grow stronger, so too did the pressure on Earth's leaders to act. They couldn't let this go on. They had to act before it was too late. But who could they trust now? It wasn't long before the betrayal was revealed. Dr. March received an encrypted message, sent directly to her from the highest authority on Earth, one she had never expected to see. "We've been compromised. The Guardian is not the only one awake. We've discovered something else. The traitors are within." Dr. March felt her stomach drop. She had trusted the people who now sent her this warning, but it seemed they had been playing a different game all along. Someone had turned on Earth, and the threat wasn't just external, it was internal, hidden within their own ranks. The discovery of the traitors rocked her to the core. These weren't just spies or agents from the darkness. These were high-ranking officials, trusted members of Earth's government who had been working with the darkness all along, and now they had turned Earth's defenses against their own planet. On the other side of Earth's military network, General Thomas Graves, one of the highest-ranking officers, stood before a sealed communication panel. His eyes were cold as he sent orders to units scattered across the globe. "We have to remove the Guardian," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "It's the only way." It wasn't the darkness that worried him. It was the Guardian's power. The Guardian had become too strong, too much of an obstacle for those who wanted control over Earth's fate. What they didn't realize was that their alliance with the darkness was now a double-edged sword. If they didn't stop the Guardian, soon the darkness would take everything from them. Meanwhile, back at the mountain complex, the Guardian began to feel the shift in the air. Its ancient senses, honed over millennia, had already begun to detect the growing presence of those who conspired against Earth. The Guardian's eyes flashed brightly, and a deep rumble reverberated through the mountains. "Betrayal," the Guardian muttered. "They are turning on you, Earth. You are not ready for what they bring." Dr. March felt her heart race as she stared at the ancient being. The Guardian had never spoken like this before. Who could she trust now? The realization hit her like a tidal wave. The traitors were among Earth's most trusted leaders. They had helped the darkness get closer than anyone had ever realized, and now the Guardian had become their biggest threat, one that had to be destroyed before it could stop them. But why would they turn on Earth? What had the Guardian done that was so dangerous? Far away, the Zek Empire watched Earth's situation unfold with a mix of curiosity and fear. The Zek, who had long been in control of parts of the galaxy, knew something had changed when the human warships first appeared. But now the situation was spiraling out of control. The Zek had tried to stay neutral, but the darkness was now infiltrating their own territories. Every report they received spoke of a growing fear. The shadow of the entity that had once been forgotten was now a real, tangible enemy. The Zek were caught between a rock and a hard place. They could either make peace with humanity or risk being consumed by the darkness themselves. The true enemy was never just the darkness. It was humanity's own weaknesses, its divisions, and the treacherous hands that had tried to control it. The traitors were working with the darkness to weaken Earth from within, and as humanity struggled to defend itself, the true battle had only just begun, a battle for Earth's soul. As Dr. March stood there, the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. The darkness wasn't just a force of destruction, it was a force of corruption, capable of turning allies into enemies. Earth wasn't just being invaded by a single enemy. It was being undermined from within. Dr. March turned to the Guardian, her eyes filled with determination. "We must fight back, not just against the darkness," she said, "but against those who have betrayed us." The Guardian nodded solemnly, its eyes flashing with ancient wisdom. "You have already started the battle. Now you must fight for what is yours." The galaxy was on the brink of collapse and the true war was only beginning. Humanity's fight for survival had just become much more complicated, as the darkness and the betrayal now threatened everything they had fought for. The skies above Earth were brimming with chaos. In space, human warships surged forward, their massive frames cutting through the darkness like knives. Each ship, each pilot, knew that the battle wasn't just about defending Earth anymore. It was about taking back what was rightfully theirs, their future. The darkness, once thought to be a mere whisper on the edge of space, was now a looming threat that could no longer be ignored. But even more terrifying than the shadow that moved through the stars was the treachery within. The traitors who had once been trusted allies now sought to undermine humanity's fight. Their loyalty was no longer to Earth but to something far darker, and yet humanity stood ready. On the ground of Earth, Dr. Selena March was on the front lines, working with the Guardian to uncover the full extent of the threat. Her mind raced as she pieced together the strange symbols and messages from the Guardian. The ancient protector knew what was coming, but there was one truth that still haunted her. The darkness wasn't just an enemy of Earth. It was a universal force, one that had consumed everything in its path, and now it was looking directly at them. And the worst part was, the traitors on Earth were trying to give it the final push it needed. The Vengeance, humanity's flagship, sailed silently through the stars, its engines glowing a deep blue. Inside, Admiral Kara Miles stood at the command center, looking at the holographic display of Earth's defense grid. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," she said quietly, her voice steady but filled with purpose. "We're fighting to protect everything humanity has ever built." Behind her, the crew of the Vengeance nodded solemnly. The truth had sunk in for all of them. Earth's future was in their hands. But there was a deeper sense of urgency now, something more than just a fight for survival. The traitors on Earth had muddied the waters, and now they had to purge the poison from their own ranks. A report came through the comms. "Admiral, the traitors are moving in the inner systems," a voice said. "They've already begun to destabilize key defense points. The darkness is closer than we thought." Kara's face hardened as she turned to the screen. "Lock all channels. We can't let them turn Earth's defenses against us." On Earth's surface, the traitors had already made their move. General Thomas Graves, once a trusted officer in Earth's military, stood in front of a crowd of loyalists, his voice carrying the weight of betrayal. "The Guardian has awakened, but it's too powerful," he said, addressing the soldiers who had now fallen under his influence. "Humanity needs freedom from this oppressive protector. The darkness offers what we truly need, true power. Join me and we will bring balance to the galaxy." His words were carefully chosen, meant to twist the minds of Earth's people. But not all of them were fooled. In the shadows, a group of rebels, once loyal to General Graves, began to see the truth. The darkness was not freedom. It was destruction. One of the rebels, Captain Arya, stood quietly in the back of the room, her heart racing as she realized the extent of the betrayal. Graves wasn't just trying to take control. He was trying to destroy Earth from within. In space, humanity's forces were closing in on the traitor fleet. The human ships fired their weapons with precision, cutting through the enemy forces, like a razor through cloth. The fleet, once scattered and weak, was now a unified front, and they had a purpose: to stop the traitors before they could give the darkness the final advantage. But the battle was not easy. The traitor fleet, though smaller, was strategically positioned, and they had secrets of their own. Ships that had once been thought to be lost or destroyed had been recovered and repurposed. Now they served as the shield between Earth and its defenders. Admiral Kara Miles gave the order to deploy all remaining forces. She knew the stakes. If the traitors succeeded in their mission, the darkness would be unstoppable. "All ships, focus on the traitor flagship," Kara commanded. "This ends now." Back on Earth, the Guardian stood in the heart of the mountain complex, his body radiating with ancient energy. His eyes were glowing brighter than ever, sensing the approaching chaos. He could feel the darkness closing in, but something more urgent struck him. The traitors were close, and they had to be stopped before they could reach the heart of humanity's power. "The darkness seeks to corrupt your very soul," the Guardian said, his voice shaking the ground beneath them. "You must stand strong, for once it takes root, nothing will remain." Dr. March felt a surge of determination. The Guardian had been right. This was the fight of a lifetime, but humanity had no choice. They would either rise, or they would fall, and Earth's survival depended on them all standing together. The battle between the forces of Earth's defenders and the traitors reached its boiling point. Explosions rocked the skies, and the air was filled with the roar of battle. Humanity's warships, now fully awakened to their potential, tore through the enemy fleet with fury and precision. They were fighting not just for Earth, but for a future that no one could take away. As the last of the traitor ships exploded in the distance, a silence fell. It wasn't over. The darkness was still out there, waiting. But humanity had just sent a message to the universe. They were ready to fight. The galaxy was on the brink of destruction. Darkness was spreading, not just across the stars, but into the very hearts of those who had once stood as humanity's allies. The forces of betrayal had done their worst, but they were not the final threat. The darkness was now a force so powerful that it threatened to consume everything. Humanity had fought back, but the battle was far from over. Earth was scarred from the conflict, and the galaxy was now facing its darkest hour. On Earth's surface, Dr. Selena March stood beside the Guardian, the ancient protector of Earth, whose power was now fully awakened. The two of them were the last defense against a force more ancient than time itself. The darkness had begun to spread, and it was feeding on the fear of civilizations across the galaxy. The Guardian's eyes glowed as he turned to Dr. March, his ancient presence casting a shadow over the landscape. The darkness will not be stopped. By fire or force, the Guardian's voice boomed, each word like a rumble of thunder. It is older than the stars. It is the end that begins all things. Only one thing can stop it. Dr. March looked up at the towering figure, her mind racing. The Guardian had always been humanity's protector. But now she understood. It wasn't just about Earth's survival. The galaxy, the entire universe, was at risk. "And that is?" she asked, her voice shaky with fear and determination. The Guardian's eyes glowed brighter. "Light, the true power of light that has been hidden within your species. In the depths of space, a vast armada of dark ships led by the entity continued its advance toward Earth. The darkness was spreading, like a plague of shadow, destroying everything in its path. Its fleet, though massive, was silent, moving, like predators in the night. The entity's voice echoed through its ship, commanding and chilling. "The time has come," the entity whispered, its form flickering in and out of visibility. "Humanity will fall as all things must. Let the light be extinguished and the darkness reign forever." The dark fleet moved closer, but as they approached Earth's defenses, something unexpected began to happen. Back on Earth, Admiral Kara Miles stood in the command center of the Vengeance, staring at the screen that displayed the approaching darkness. Her jaw clenched as she looked at the ships on the horizon, their silhouette like a black wave ready to crash upon Earth. But something had changed. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were fighting back with everything they had. The loss of Earth was not an option. "We won't give up this time," Kara said quietly to herself, her voice steady. "We will fight for the light, for Earth, for everything we've built." She turned to her crew. "Prepare the fleet, we're going to end this." The final confrontation between the forces of darkness and the human fleet was inevitable. As the dark fleet moved closer to Earth's orbit, the Guardian stood at the heart of the mountain complex, ready to unleash his true power. But he knew he could not do this alone. Humanity had to fight alongside him. This was their battle as much as it was his. "You must fight with me, Dr. March. The true power of Earth is not just in our hands, but in your hearts." Dr. March nodded, understanding the weight of the words. Humanity's strength was not in their weapons or their ships, but in their unity, in their belief that they could stand together against the darkness. The final battle took place under the darkened skies of Earth, as humanity's warships clashed with the forces of the darkness. But this time it was different. The human fleet was no longer outnumbered. They fought with a new determination, with the light of their ancient guardian as their guide. As the ships fired their weapons and moved in formation, humanity's true power began to shine through. The light they had once ignored, the light that had been dormant for so long, now surged through every ship, every human, every soldier. In space, the battle became a clash of light against shadow, as the darkness fought desperately to consume Earth and the universe. But with each strike, each blast of energy, the human fleet fought back, their weapons infused with light and power that had never been seen before. The darkness was weakening. The Guardian's power surged to its peak, his form glowing like a star as he raised his arms high. He was no longer just a protector. He was Earth's beacon, and his light pierced through the galaxy, breaking through the shadows of the dark fleet. "The light will always triumph," the Guardian said, his voice booming through space. "And now, it is time to show the darkness that even in the farthest reaches of the void, humanity will shine." With one final, massive burst of energy, the dark fleet began to fall apart. The ships of the entity crumbled under the intensity of the light, their dark forms dissipating like smoke in the wind. As the light finally extinguished the last remnants of the dark fleet, Earth's atmosphere calmed. The fight was over. But the message had been made clear. Humanity had risen, and no one, not even the forces of darkness, would be able to silence them again. Back on Earth, Admiral Kara Miles stood on the bridge of the Vengeance looking at the stars. Humanity had won, but they knew the galaxy would never be the same. The Guardian had awakened, and with it, humanity's true potential had been unleashed. But the war was far from over. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's wrath, and now they would have to face the consequences. The war was over, but the scars of the battle remained. Humanity stood on the brink of a new era, one forged in the fires of the greatest conflict the galaxy had ever seen. The darkness that had once threatened to swallow them whole had been pushed back, but at what cost? As the last remnants of the Dark Fleet scattered into the void, Earth's surface slowly began to return to its peaceful state. The skies, once filled with destruction and fear, were now calm once again. But the air felt different now, charged, as though something had changed forever. Admiral Kara Miles stood on the bridge of the Vengeance looking out at the stars, lost in thought. The galaxy was finally silent, but it was not the same silence they had known before. This was a silence of peace earned through the blood and sweat of Earth's warriors. Yet, despite their victory, Kara felt a lingering sense of uncertainty. What now? She asked softly to herself, though she knew there was no easy answer. Humanity had just faced a threat that could have destroyed them all. Yet now, they were standing at the precipice of something greater, something unimaginable. "We've won," Kara said, turning to her officers, "but the real battle starts now." On Earth's surface, Dr. Selena March stood at the edge of the mountain complex, watching as the first signs of a new dawn broke over the horizon. The Guardian, once a protector buried in legend, now stood beside her, an ancient force of nature, awakened and ready to face the challenges of a new galaxy. "The galaxy will never forget the day Earth rose against the darkness," the Guardian said, his voice filled with an ancient wisdom that carried the weight of ages. Dr. March nodded, but her mind was filled with questions. What happens now? "Now we move forward," the Guardian replied, his eyes glowing with an intensity that matched the power within him. "The darkness is not truly gone. But you, humanity, have proven something the galaxy never expected. That you are not just survivors. You are a force." Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council convened. Leaders of the greatest empires who had once believed that humanity was little more than a speck in the vast expanse of space now watched with newfound respect and fear. They had seen the human fleet rise from the ashes, and they had seen what the humans had done to the forces of darkness. "They have proven themselves," a leader from the Zek Empire said, his voice tinged with awe. "Perhaps it is time to reconsider our approach to Earth." But not all were willing to accept the shift in power so easily. A Krellian leader, his eyes narrowed with suspicion, shook his head. "We cannot ignore them. They have shown that they are not bound by the same laws that govern the rest of us. Humanity's power is now undeniable, but so is their potential to destroy." Back on Earth, Director Gavin Cross stood in the newly established Earth Council, the remnants of humanity's political structure now reformed. The war had changed everything. No longer was Earth merely a distant planet, fighting for survival in a cold galaxy. They were now a new force, one that would shape the galaxy for centuries to come. "We've won," Cross said, addressing the council. "But our real challenge is yet to come. The galaxy is watching, and we must decide what kind of future we want to build." He turned to the screen, which displayed the human fleet still stationed above Earth. "We can choose to isolate ourselves, to hide in the shadows of our victory, or we can stand tall and claim our place among the stars." The Guardian, standing at the heart of Earth's power, knew that the choices they made now would define the future. The darkness had been pushed back, but it had not been destroyed, and as long as the stars existed, the battle would never be fully over. "The true test of humanity's strength will come when the galaxy tests you again," the Guardian said. "But know this, you are not alone. Humanity was forever changed. No longer the weak species, caught in the web of galactic politics, Earth had proven that they could defend their own. The Guardian's awakening had been the first step. But it was humanity's courage, unity, and resolve that had ultimately won the war. And now, as Earth stood at the edge of a new dawn, they knew that the real fight was yet to begin. The universe was vast and filled with dangers, but humanity's place among the stars was secure. Earth had been tested, and it had survived. The light of humanity now shone brighter than ever before, and though the darkness still loomed out there, somewhere in the distant void, humanity had proven they were ready to face whatever came next. "We rise together," Dr. March whispered to herself as she watched the first rays of the sun break across the horizon. The war was over, but the future was just beginning.